What's going on YouTube? It's TH back again with another video, and today going through my 2023 updated mock draft. Today is the round 2 portion of the video. If you missed yesterday, that was round 1. Definitely go back and check it out. It was a good one if you ask me. Before we get started today, I want to go ahead and showcase the best players still available on the board. And before we get started, I want to ask if you guys enjoyed today's video, be sure to hit that like button. It seriously would help me and the channel out a ton. And if you're new around here, want to see more draft content, more football videos in general, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And the most important thing you can do, leave a comment down below. Who's your favorite team? Do you like the pick? Do you hate the pick that I gave your squad? And why? I'd love to hear your rationale for why you feel that way. And of course, who do I have going too high? Who do I have falling too low? Love to hear your thoughts and feedback there as well. So those are the best players available. Again, go back, check out round 1 yesterday if you missed it. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Pittsburgh on the clock at pick 32. They're going to take Dawand Jones. So less than ideal. I'd rather see Pittsburgh be able to draft a left tackle. But if it played out like this, Jones is, and we're at a spot here with the draft, like we're getting kind of thin on tackles here. And I find that when we get 4 offensive tackles in round 1, we start to get really light throughout the day 2 portion of videos, round 2 and round 3. But now Jones here at 32, that it makes it that much more of a scarce position group. But nevertheless, Jones, I guess, could be the plug-and-play, right tackle. I mean, he is an insane build, too. 6'8", like 370, long-ass arms. So that type of guy at right tackle, and then you would flip Chukwuma Okorafor back over to left tackle, where that's where he played at college. So maybe that is an upgrade over Dan Moore. And honestly, I'm a Steelers fan, so any upgrade I can find on the offensive line, I am ecstatic about it. I really think they can upgrade anywhere 1 through 5, left tackle all the way through to right tackle. So if it's Jones on the right tackle side, flipping over to Chukwuma Okorafor, not the perfect and most ideal situation for me, but nevertheless, an upgrade is an upgrade. Next, the Houston Texans. I'm going to have them take Jalin Hyatt. We went quarterback, then edge. Now I want to get that over-the-top speed. And I think Hyatt, yeah, he played slot only in that Josh Heupel offense, but that offensive alignment is just different than most college schools. So I think he comes with inside-out flexibility because the slot at Tennessee was basically playing at NFL-wide alignment. So I think he's comfortable playing from that spot. But the over-the-top speed is what we're looking to recoup, basically with the loss of Brandon Cooks pending, at the time of this recording, has not happened yet, but presume that it will eventually. And I know they added Robert Woods. They also have John Mechie coming back from leukemia, hopefully, which that would be awesome. I also think Woods can play outside. Like if Nico Collins gets hurt or it hits a wall or something like that, Woods can move outside. So I think if it's Hyatt, Woods, and Mechie, I think that becomes a solid wide receiver trio. Or if it's, Hyatt and Nico Collins on the outside with Woods in the slot, that's also understandable. So, and then you work Mechie in wherever you can, or Woods rotates outside with Collins. It's not my job to figure out that rotation. I just want to add more firepower for Bryce Young, who we took at number 2, give him a great ecosystem around him. And I think getting that over-the-top speed after you lose Brandon Cooks is a big time addition. Next, the Arizona Cardinals. They're going to get the fortune of having Kelee Ringo fall into their lap, and especially considering they lost Byron Murphy. Yes, this could be interior offensive line, but you also need that number 1 corner, and you lost it with Byron Murphy. In a perfect world, I'd have Byron Murphy and Kelee Ringo on the outside, and that would make me feel pretty decent about that secondary, but not the world we're living in. Murphy's now a Minnesota Viking, so we need that next number 1 guy, and Kelee Ringo has that potential. 6'2", 4.36 speed, long arms, looks like a man press corner, so we'll have to see how much Jonathan Gannon. He did run a decent bit of that cover 1 single high safety in addition to running quarters, which with his Ringo's long arms and his his speed, I think he makes for a really interesting fit in that zone, quarters heavy potential defense. So either way you spin it, this is a potential CB1 in the making, has a lot of the athletic traits you're looking for, and it's a big time position of need for Arizona. Next, the Indianapolis Colts. I'm going to take Keon White. Get another big body edge in there to pair up with Kwity Paye. Paye's been a pretty good run defender to start, still figuring out as a pass rusher. And then meanwhile, Keon White, this tight end turned edge rusher, ODU transfer to Georgia Tech. He's just figured it out year over year, and the production's kind of showcased that. Starts out as a good run defender, then starts to pick up as a pass rusher, 7.5 sacks this last year. So if I'm the Colts, I'm trying to pick up on that continuation and that growth curve that he's on. And Indianapolis has been trying to find an answer there on the edge. They, maybe Kwity Paye is that, but I also think the other side of the defensive line really needs a starter, and I think Keon White certainly can be that. At least he gives you a solid run defender to pair with Paye, but I think the pass rush upside, it's undeniable. And if the Colts can have Paye take a step forward and Keon White is a hit, that defense gets really, really scary really quick. Next, the Rams at 36. Man, I don't know what to do with this team because, like, on one side of the ball, they're completely blowing it up. And then the other side of the ball, they're just going to try to pseudo-run it back, with the exception of Allen Robinson being on the trade market. So I'm just going to go Antonio Johnson because they have a handful of safeties on the market right now. Maybe those guys will be re-signed by the time you're seeing this. If so, that's unfortunate. But Troy Hill, who played some slot, he played some outside. Antonio Johnson could be that nickel corner, strong safety hybrid. I think Jordan Fuller is the safety that's still under contract and coming back, but Taylor Rapp is a free agent. So I think addressing safety, but also getting another nickel corner type of player is something that would make that defense a little scarier, especially if they are going to try to win. I think Antonio Johnson helps you win right now, but honestly, I'm a little confused about the direction of this team right now. Next, Seattle at 37. Let's go John Michael Schmitz. They need a center. And boom, you got one. They also could use some guard upgrades in my estimation, but John Michael Schmitz at least gives you that center upgrade. To me, he's the best center in this class. It's him or Luke Weipler. Could go either way. Weipler actually weighed more than John Michael Schmitz. I think Weipler moves a little better, so maybe for a zone blocking scheme, he's your preference here. But nonetheless, I don't think John Michael Schmitz moves poorly. And also, he's just got a mean streak about him that I don't know why. It just kind of feels like he's a Seattle dude right there. He plays with that attitude that I really kind of like. So I give him the nudge here over Weipler based off of something that I cannot quantify. So there it is. It's my mock draft. I'll do what I want with it. So next up, the Raiders at 38. Let's take Tyreek Stevenson. Yeah, long story short, Patrick Graham just needs some better players on the outside. He needs the dogs to be able to run his offense. He mixes it up relatively evenly, going back to his time with the Giants between man, zone, cover 3, cover 4, cover 2, all that sort of stuff. He's a cut from the Mike Zimmer cloth, where he mixes it up really evenly. So Tyreek Stevenson, minimum gives you that man press ability. May take some time for him to kind of figure out zone coverage. Didn't really do a whole lot of that at Miami. And at the Senior Bowl, you saw the man press ability, and that's awesome. And I think when push comes to shove, that's what Patrick Graham would like to see that defense be able to run. So gives you a solid baseline and a guy who is going to continue to get better and better. And I think makes for, at least for what Patrick Graham ideally wants to do, Stevenson's a great fit. Now it may take some time for him to figure out zone coverage, but I think that's a risk worth taking here at the beginning of the second round. Next, Carolina Panthers. We're going to give them Tank Dell. Do some homework for me and just type in Tank Dell, Jim Nagy, and look up the tweet he posted about a week ago from when you're seeing this video. Dude, his release is insane. And plus, he has 6-foot wingspan. So that may not sound like anything crazy, but for a 5'10 wide receiver, I actually think that's kind of a big deal because I don't want Tank Dell to turn into Tutu Atwell 2.0. So I think having the arm length plus an insane release allows you to be able to play Tank Dell on the outside, especially with the news that Adam Thielen is meeting with the Panthers. I was originally kind of figuring on Dell being the inside guy with Shenault and then Terrence Marshall Jr. playing on the outside. Maybe Dell can flip out wide and Shenault moves in the slot. But if they bring in Thielen, at this point in his career, he's lost a step. He should be their slot guy. So even taking Tank Dell here, I feel like there's more than... it's very likely and it's very plausible to get him on the field. I think it's easy because that over-the-top speed, it makes sense for him to be a vertical guy and push the defense there from out wide. So, but also you can do some stuff with him on the inside. He can be yards after the catch, gadget weapon in the offense. They already have that a little bit with Shenault, but I don't think this is repetitive whatsoever. And also, no guarantee Shenault works. I love Laviska Shenault coming out of Colorado, and I've been really excited to see him kind of hit the ground running, but it just has not happened through multiple coaches and now multiple teams. So this might also just be your Laviska Shenault insurance. So no matter how you spin it, adding a wide receiver to that offense, getting some additional reinforcements for CJ Stroud, I think is a big-time add. Next, New Orleans Saints, and this is going to end the run for Michael Mayer. Pretty steep fall down the board. He's just so tough to mock, right? Like, I try to find a home for him in the middle of the first round, then sometimes it becomes the 20s, and then sometimes it's like the 30s, and I just, put him in New Orleans or something like that. But here, New Orleans gets him, and they just wait another 10 picks on top of getting a guard at 30. So this is a pretty awesome draft haul to really boost that offense where it's at. And, Juwan Jennings is there at tight end, and there's some people excited about that, but let's just go ahead and be sure. Whether it's him or it's Michael Mayer, let's find an answer there at tight end. It's been a while since New Orleans has had that type of a game breaker. They've been able to rework the contract with Michael Thomas, so that's awesome. Thomas, Olave, Mayer, that becomes a really fun trio of pass catchers, and plus other players in the mix, of course, as well. That gives a really solid, ground for Derek Carr to be able to work from. and plus the guard at 30. So this becomes a offensive focused, and we're actually going to go offense again tomorrow. So it's really offensively focused for a team that I think could use some defensive reinforcements. But let's play around with some different draft possibilities here. Let's say maybe the Saints are going all in around Derek Carr, and Michael Mayer falls in their lap at 40. That's a pretty good value to me. Next, Tennessee Titans at 41. I'm going to go B.J. Ojulari. Yes, I know they signed Arden Key, so we're going speed rusher after they just signed one. But Arden Key was a DPR in Jacksonville, and part of the value of signing an Arden Key is not letting him go back to Jacksonville with how good he was. So I'm thinking of Key kind of as a DPR, B.J. Ojulari as the full-time starter opposite of Harold Landry. And maybe it's the other way around to start, because Ojulari is not necessarily the highest level of run defenders in this edge group. Lighter guy that wins with speed and finesse, and unlike some of the other guys, not really a project when it comes to teaching him a move set and how to stack those moves. So maybe he's the DPR. Maybe he's like the Titans' Nick Benito, who the Broncos drafted at 64 last year. Plausible. But I'd rather see it be Ojulari, Landry on the outside, and then Arden Key, especially $7 million a year. That's a fine salary for a third down, pass rush specialist. But maybe it flips out the other way. No matter how you spend it, pass rush is something that the Titans have got to get better at. And I think having that type of three-headed duo or trio, plus Jeffrey Simmons, plus Danico Autry, that's when that front seven gets really, really scary from a pass rush standpoint. Next, Cleveland Browns. This one became pretty easy for me, especially after they signed not Laken Tomlinson, Dalvin Tomlinson. That was the name I was looking for. But yes, let's say out of that run-stopping, focused defensive tackle, I'm going to shift my attention here to wide receiver. I think this team definitely needs another one. So Josh Downs becomes that slot wide receiver for this team. Both a yards after the catch weapon, but also someone who is a great underneath route runner. And I think even pushing him deeper and deeper down the field. I know 4.48 speed doesn't sound anything crazy, but this is a smaller guy, shorter strides as well. I think he's got more than enough long speed to be able to separate deep down the field. So I think pushing him deep down the field, it'll have to be crossing routes, but I still think he can create separation with those types of routes, just like Christian Watson and the Packers at the end of last year, where it's like, hey, this guy may not be a great deep downfield route runner, but there ain't people built like 6'5" and running the 4.4s like Christian Watson. And Josh Downs, again, smaller, not quite the stride length that Christian Watson has, but a guy that can get open deep down the field nonetheless, and he did it a ton at UNC. But even that point aside, yards after the catch weapon and an underneath threat when you already have Amari Cooper and a vertically based big body guy in Donovan Peoples-Jones, I think it just rounds out that wide receiver room, and it gives Deshaun Watson that third weapon that he desperately needs. Next up, let's get to the Jets. And I got some conflicting information on this, so maybe by the time you're seeing this becomes a little redundant if Connor McGovern is back. But, I saw articles saying that he re-signed, but then it was them writing pieces about why he should re-sign, so they clickbaited me, and that's not fun. But nevertheless, if they lose McGovern, that center spot's kind of standing out as a key cog in the mix for presumably going to stick with that zone blocking scheme. I know a change in OCs, so maybe Hackett's looking to do something a little different, but nonetheless, center is going to be a potential area of need, whether it's Luke Weipler here fitting in that zone defense, or they're looking to just go Steve Avila, or maybe even Joe Tippmann here. I think that if they lose McGovern, that becomes a huge hole that they're looking to fill. If they even have this pick, of course, with the Aaron Rodgers situation at the time of this recording, no news yet. But if it does break, obviously that will change up the draft order, and that will change things pretty big. And they may not even have this pick. But if they do, and McGovern's gone, center becomes an area that I think they could definitely address here at 43. Next up, the Atlanta Falcons. I'm going to give them Julius Brents, this freaky corner that I am absolutely in love with. 6'3", 4.5 speed, which is plenty for that size, and a 6'6", 3 cone, 34-inch arms, pairing him up with A.J. Terrell. That's a potential no-fly zone. In addition to the signing of Jesse Bates, man, all of a sudden that Atlanta secondary would get really fun to watch, and not just because I love me some Julius Brents. Played at Iowa, zone-heavy scheme, went over to K-State where they mix it up a little bit more. So I feel comfortable about him being a pretty polished player right away on top of that size and that type of movement skills. I don't rule out that he goes round one, but I know I'm higher on Julius Brents than a lot of other people. So mid-round 2 feels like a really sweet value here for Atlanta, looking for that other outside corner pair with A.J. Terrell for the long run. Next, we get Green Bay, and they're going to take Darnell Washington. I really do like this fit. And I don't think the Packers are going to go pass catcher round 1 just because they do their business. That's just how they do business. But Darnell Washington in the second round, You get some untapped potential as a receiver, a guy who moves really well at 6'7", 265, but also an awesome blocker. And with a little bit of uncertainty, what's going to happen at tackle? Can Bakhtiari stay healthy? Is Jenkins going to move out to play tackle? What are you doing on the inside then? Is Zach Tom ready to be a full-time starter? Are they bringing back Josh Yman? I actually don't know if they are or not, so let me know down below in the comment section. But nonetheless, tackle could be a spot where, you know, the blocking ability of Darnell Washington reinforces that strength. That it has been a strength for a long time for Green Bay. So you're getting two things that make a better situation for Jordan Love. A tight end who has some untapped receiving potential and could be that third or fourth fiddle to you know, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, some of the other pieces there in Green Bay, but also blocking reinforcements to ensure that Jordan Love has a solid offensive line in front of him, keeping him clean, and then allowing you to get a fair look at, do we like Jordan Love? Do we want to re-sign him? Is he our Aaron Rodgers long-term replacement? So I think that's a win for a few different reasons there. Next up, the New England Patriots. As promised in yesterday's video, we are going to have a trade here. Now, it's not necessarily the most drastic trade, and I wish I could have gotten more value out of this, but nonetheless, New England able to secure that #1 offensive tackle in this class and really sure one of the most large, you know, one of the biggest holes they have on their roster. And here they are going to recoup some of that value in trade places. Yes, I know it's in division, but honestly, I don't think it's that out of it. I think we're moving past that a little bit in the NFL, especially, you know, New England, Miami. I guess that's a rivalry, but it's not Pittsburgh, Baltimore, or anything like that. They've even done trades, you know, throughout my lifetime. So, but with the Lions and the Vikings trading, I feel like we're starting to hit a point in the NFL where good business is good business, and I think this is good business for both sides. A couple fifth-round picks for New England, and they actually have a ton of fifth-round picks this year, so, you know, maybe not the most ideal thing there. But nevertheless, let's give Jahmyr Gibbs to Miami. 4.3, 640. It's not Devon Achane, but it's not far off. Actually, 4/100ths of a second off. I also think you're getting a better receiving back and actually someone who plays at a heavier weight. You know, Gibbs may not always feel like a guy who plays at 200 pounds. He doesn't always take those hits, but that doesn't really bother me. I know that that is an issue for some, but nonetheless, I'm just looking to add sub 4.4 speed, a great receiver into this offense, and a guy that makes for an awesome fit in that zone blocking scheme. And I mean, hit the hole and run. That's a big reason why I was so excited to see him in that Alabama offense, because he was basically trying to win games at Georgia Tech. Alabama, he got to just play free. He got to just read the hole, or, you know, read the run fits, hit the hole, and go. And it was just that simple, as opposed to, I need to win this game. I need to take this to the house right here, right now, by any means necessary. So I think the assignment got easier. He got better because of it. The production bared that out. I think he would have a similar situation here in Miami. And talking about his receiving ability real quick, I think you're looking at Miami, and we're going to kind of address this again in tomorrow's video with the other position I take. But with linebackers dropping so far back to take away that timing throw to Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill 15, 20 yards down the field, I think Gibbs has that underneath, you know, valve, forcing linebackers closer and closer to the line of scrimmage. That's how you counteract that. And just get the ball to this guy's hands and let him do the rest. I mean, it's kind of a cheat code. It makes me think about the Giants-Vikings, you know, wild card game, where it's like, just dump it off to Jahmyr Gibbs, let him pick up 8 yards, force those linebackers back up, so that way you reopen that timing throw 15, 20 yards deep down the field. So really like the Gibbs addition from that standpoint. Next is Washington, and a pick I haven't made yet, and I'm kind of floored with myself by that. Jack Campbell. I just lost Cole Holcomb. He's signing with the Pittsburgh Steelers, so we're going to actually go linebacker here in a little bit, but Holcomb is different than the guy I'm going to give Pittsburgh. But now there's a starting spot opened up, and Jamin Davis is this freaky athlete, but, you know, a work in progress when it comes to playing linebacker. Jack Campbell is pretty much the opposite. He's actually a really, you know, NFL-ready linebacker who just barely has above average, you know, 40 time. Pretty solid 3-cone, though, from the Combine. I'd be interested to see how much more he does at his Iowa Pro Day. But nevertheless, just a nice inverse of what Jamin Davis was coming out of Kentucky. So would love to see this be the pairing. And also, like, Ron Rivera, former linebacker. Jack Del Rio, former linebacker. If Jack Campbell's here, he is a linebacker's linebacker. I think that this is going to end up being the pick. Next, Detroit at pick 48. Jack Campbell off the board. They kind of got sniped there. But also, they re-signed Alex Anzalone. So I'm going to look into your offensive line here and just kind of future-proof that spot. Same thing we talked about with Christian Gonzalez yesterday, where whether it's Jonah Jackson maybe asking for a little bit too much money in a year's time, or it's, you know, trying to move on from Big V. Steve Avila also comes with center flexibility just in case, you know, Frank Ragnow gets another injury. So getting the best pass blocking interior offensive lineman is always a good thing, especially when you can play guard or center. So I think really flexible and allows you, no matter where this roster looks like in a year's time, Steve Avila can be a part of it. So guard, center, either guard spot for that matter, I think he fits into that. And also getting an awesome pass protector into that offense certainly goes a long way. They already have a lot of maulers and great run blockers. Now let's get that pass blocking specialist. Pittsburgh, like I said, am going to go linebacker here. Drew Sanders, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe they move on from Miles Jack if this were to play out. Pair up Sanders with Holcomb. Holcomb is this speedy, rangy coverage specialist. Drew Sanders, the best thing he brings to the table right here, right now, is his blitzing ability. And also, no word on Pittsburgh if Bud Dupree is going to come back. That one does make a lot of sense to me. And his best years were in Pittsburgh, so maybe that's best for him as well. But nonetheless, if they don't, maybe Drew Sanders just becomes that third edge rusher. I wouldn't hate that either. And that's basically how Alabama used him. Then he goes to Arkansas after transferring over to the Razorbacks. Got to see him over the middle of the field. A little bit of a work in progress when it comes to being, a run defender, filling in lanes, things like that, but even in coverage. But you see the athleticism, and I always reference this Ole Miss game where he has this crazy leaping interception. There's also a fumble recovery in that game where he is just quick to locate and moves. He moves like few linebackers do. Picks it up and finishes off the play for Arkansas there. So that was one of those games where it's like, wow, this guy is a unbelievable athlete, flying around, jumping around. Yeah. And then that plus his blitzing capabilities becomes a really interesting fit in pairing with Cole Holcomb. Again, different, skill sets and backgrounds and kind of getting them where they are now. But I'd love to see Pittsburgh take Sanders here, whether it's to be that third edge rusher, kind of rotating in with Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt, or pairing up with Cole Holcomb. So we'll have to see what they do with Miles Jack if this were the situation that played out. Next, Tampa Bay at pick 50. I've had this guy actually fall a little bit, but I hate that for me. Adetomiwa Adebawore, I think he'd go top 40. So here, him going right at pick 50, and this is also 50 or 51, depending on if you include the forfeited Miami pick. But here with it not included in this count order, he still makes it in the top 50, which feels okay. But edge, but even maybe like 3-4 D end flexibility. They drafted a tweener last year in Logan Hall out of Houston. So I'm figuring out Adebawore being an edge rusher and maybe your replacement to Shaq Barrett, pair him up with Joe Tryon-Shoyinka long term. But maybe he could also be that interior guy that is paired up with Vita Vea. So I like the flexibility Adebawore could present with this roster. And I just think it's a great value here at 50. So we got one of the most NFL ready, day one, ready to go rookies in Bijan Robinson. Now we're getting that pass rush reinforcements and a really good value here inside the top 50. Now we get back to the New England Patriots. They traded down, recouped a little bit of the assets that they, with value lost from yesterday's trade up. Here, I'm looking wide receiver, and I'm going to go Michael Wilson. Different pairing here, and I don't really rule out Wilson going this high. A lot of times I have him go like 64 to the Chiefs or 63, again, depending on if you include the Miami pick or not. And ultimately that definitely makes a lot of sense. Maybe it's, somewhere in the top 70. But I don't rule out 50-ish as his range. And, Michael Wilson, maybe this opens up the door for you to move on from Devontae Parker. They also lost Jacoby Myers. So, maybe you're reworking who's playing in the slot there. Maybe it's Tyquan Thornton, This is a slot-heavy kind of wide receiver room, so maybe that is the direction they would go here. But I don't hate them adding another outside guy, and ultimately, I think that's where the biggest difference could potentially be had. Solid size, 6'2", 200+ pounds, good underneath route runner, looked really, really good at the Senior Bowl. Unfortunately, didn't get to play that much in college. Only like 26 games played over 5 years. But the Senior Bowl and how he looked there was like top 50, top 60 worthy. So want to give him his flowers here. And, again, maybe this just opens up the door to move on from Devontae Parker, or with Jacoby Myers gone, it's like, hey, wherever we can find a difference maker at wide receiver, we need to. So you move back, you still get to add a wide receiver, address the position need. Feels like a solid outcome for New England here in the second round. All right, next we get the Seattle Seahawks. I'm going to do something a little different here. I haven't done this yet, but Dalton Kincaid may well go in the first round, but here he makes it all the way to 52. Seattle fans, let me hear you down below in the comment section. Do you like tight end here? And in specific, you may not be crazy about tight end, but if it's Dalton Kincaid, this potential first rounder, and he falls in your lap in your second round pick, do you like it then? And I Noah Fant, I think is fine. He's a solid athletic tight end, but he doesn't really do a whole lot else. And also getting closer and closer to age 30, so getting younger, getting cheaper at the position, but you're still keeping a good athlete in the works here with Dalton Kincaid. I think a more well-versed route runner and also a tank to bring down. I don't really think that Fant has that a part of his game, so you're adding youth and keeping that speed element in the tight end room, but also just getting a more dynamic tight end that does more things here. So considering that I've seen him go in the first round with a lot of mocks and we're kind of hearing that buzz, if he makes it all the way here, I think Seattle would be really, really excited. And we're just putting more and more weapons around Geno Smith, which he was great last year. Let's make the situation even better and see how much better he gets because of it. All right, let's move on to the Philadelphia Eagles now. I'm going to go Emmanuel Forbes. This is just kind of me. Potential, you know, they could lose Darius Slay. I'm glad they got Bradbury back, and they actually got Bradbury back on a really, really solid value. So this is why I wanted to trade down with Chicago, because I didn't like what was on the board for Philadelphia right there at 30. So let's trade back by 20 some spots, pick up another third round pick on top of that at 76. And then now let's get, Zach McPherson potential competition, and just in case we lose Darius Slay, maybe that other outside corner paired up with Bradbury. So just trying to future-proof the roster, and also like Darius Slay, wrong side of 30, Bradbury coming up on age 30. One of those guys might hit a wall, so just having that next guy up is never a bad thing. Next, the LA Chargers, a pick I have made plenty of times. Keanu Benton, get him that, I think, most NFL-ready run defender that could go in the second round. On that roster, yes, they signed Sebastian Joseph Day. Yes, they signed Austin Johnson. I hear you, I understand, but I just don't think those guys are the long-term fix. And ultimately battled injuries, and they really didn't fix the issue last year. So why stop? Why just assume, okay, well, they didn't fix it last year, now they're going to fix it? No, that's not how this works. They didn't fix it last year, so keep trying to address an area of a problem, right? So I think Keanu Benton, really good value here in the mid-50s. And then we're going to go offensive line tomorrow, especially considering the news of them releasing Matt Filer. So this could be an offensive line spot as well. Just wanted to kind of point that out. But I'd rather just get that, two-gapping, run-stopping, nose tackle this team needs to be able to play those two high shells. Next, the Detroit Lions. I'm going to give them, I kind of went back and forth on this one. I am going to give them Sidney Brown. See, the Cam Sutton signing kind of complicates this one for me because, inside-out versatility, figure on him being the slot corner right away with Mosley, and in this situation, or really in this situation, Gonzalez and Okudah on the outside, maybe rotating in Mosley as much as you can. But also Tracy Walker has 2 years left on his deal. I could see this being like Sidney Brown as that third safety and eventually just replaces Tracy Walker. Sometimes you just have to plan 2 years in advance. And if Brown is a backup for 2 years and then replaces Walker and allows you to pair up him and Kirby Joseph and not miss a beat, I think that brings value, especially, if the Lions continue their trajectory. They were 9-8 last year. It feels like this team is knocking on the door to be a postseason squad. So not having a hold there at safety, I think, is going to be paramount. And it allows you to kind of future-proof this roster. I feel like I'm saying that with the Lions here. So draft Sid Brown, have him be the potential Tracy Walker replacement. And who knows? Maybe he's just better than Tracy Walker. Like, who knows? He might just outplay him right away. And if that's the case, finding an upgrade is never a bad thing. So I like that pick there. Kind of deliberated on, but I do think Sidney Brown's going to go somewhere in round 2. Next, Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm going to go Derek Hall. We talked about Arden Key a little bit earlier on. They lost that speed rusher, and I think they can kind of recoup that here with Derek Hall. And maybe he's also like that what Kayvon Chaisson wasn't supposed to be. And I think once you get into passing situations, Travon Walker had that capability of moving inside. So I think you could have a trio out on the field at the same time of Josh Allen, Travon Walker, Derek Hall. Additionally, thinking down the line, Josh Allen, do you want to pay him? I don't know. If you get a breakout this year from Travon Walker and Derek Hall looks really good, you might opt to just let Josh Allen hit the market and, let someone else pay him a lot of money if Walker and Hall you feel like is enough to suffice. So another potential possibility that could play out, in another year or two's time. But at least right here, right now, Hall becomes your Arden Key this year. Walker and Allen are still your starters. But then that you keep that high-level trio that really took you to a really special place deep down the stretch last year and got you into the playoffs. So next, New York Giants. I'm going to give him a cornerback here. DJ Turner, 4.26 speed. I'm hoping to see that 3-cone at his pro day because apparently it's awesome. But nonetheless, twitchy athlete coming off a solid season at Michigan, and a guy who gets his hands on the football at a pretty good rate too. And then just trying to get that other outside corner position solidified. You have Adoree Jackson on one side. Let's give Wink Martindale that other outside corner. I don't think DJ Turner's the most man press ready, so maybe you flip out him with an Eli Ricks here. Wouldn't hate that. But let's just go with the high-end athlete here and trust those traits. And also a guy who played more in college versus an Eli Ricks, who is going to be taken off the board in tomorrow's video. So just trying to give Wink Martindale the horses he needs to win the race and get him that other outside corner to pair up with Adoree Jackson. Next, Dallas. Like I said yesterday, we're going to give him a tight end here. It's going to be Luke Musgrave. I think you're getting good value of having this tight end class. It feels like the depth maybe playing into my mind here. or some of these names are falling down the board. But Musgrave, I think, makes for a really solid Dalton Schultz replacement. Good athlete, 4.61 speed, while maybe disappointing, but still not a bad 40 time. And also a good route runner, soft hands, can do a lot of the things that they asked Schultz to do. So basically just keeping the status quo, keeping a great supporting cast around Dak Prescott. That was my focus here through the first 2 rounds. Then we get to Buffalo, and I'm basically going to draft the Micah Hyde replacement in Jammie Robinson. I really like Robinson. Can also play the nickel. Had a pretty even snap share, snap count alignment between strong, free, and the nickel. So versatile piece that you can move all over the field. And you could move Benford over to play safety, and maybe this is Poyer and Benford's year with Robinson lingering around, maybe doing stuff in the slot. I don't know. At that point, I would just keep Benford at corner and then have it be Poyer and Robinson. And then when Hyde, maybe hits the market next, or maybe hangs it up, however that plays out, that's when you move Benford over to safety. So just, addressing a future need, because that safety tandem has been a huge part of the Bills' identity. So I think getting that next guy up here with Jammie Robinson is a way to keep it a strength. Next, we get the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm going to go running back Zach Charbonnet here. I would love to see a backfield of Zach Charbonnet and Chris Evans. Chris Evans was like my day 3 running back sleeper a couple years ago, and I loved him. And I think he could be the scat back, elusive back type of dude in that committee. And then Zach Charbonnet, 4.53 speed. I think it's just enough given his strength and power that he plays with. And also, he's not necessarily... He has some agility. Like I think people are kind of overlooking that. It may not be like LaShawn McCoy or anything like that, but he can be a one cut back. It may only be that one single cut, but he can be a one cut back. So I think him plus Chris Evans creates a really nice running back committee and allows you to move on from Joe Mixon, which the Bengals are looking to save money. They got to pay a lot of their big cornerstone pieces on that offense: Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, and Jamar Chase. So wherever you can save money is going to be paramount. So I think Joe Mixon, unfortunately, is going to have to be one of those cut casualties. Next, Chicago Bears at 61. They have a great value falling to their lap here in Felix Anudike-Uzomah. Yes, we got that 3-tech earlier with Kalijah Kancey, but look, Travis Gibson is just not as great as I think a lot of people want to think he is. And Dominique Robinson, I don't think that's a long-term answer either. So let's add Felix Anudike-Uzomah, 6'3", 255, which is about the same weight Robinson is at, but a little bit taller. So I'm not really too worried about his size here. I think he can fit into that 4-man front on that Matt Eberflus defense. And you're looking for answers in the pass rush department. You spent a lot of money at linebacker. You got Tremaine Edmonds. You got TJ Edwards. Now let's double up on defensive line. Let's get that 3-tech, an explosive get-off player like Kalijah Kancey, and let's get him a running mate there on the edge in Felix Anudike-Uzomah. And here at 61, I think it's a great value for a really good player, good get-off, has a little bit of power in the mix as well, and a pretty productive player at K-State, especially going back 2 years ago. Then we get to Philadelphia at 63, or excuse me, 61. Again, I wrote it down factoring in the Miami pick, so apologies there. But Cody Mauch, getting him that insurance on the interior offensive line. Isaac Seumalo, we'll see. Maybe they bring him back. Maybe they lose him. If they lose him, Mauch could be a starter right away. But if they get him back, depending on the contract and the terms of it, maybe it's just a short deal and Mauch's a backup. Nonetheless, even if it is a relatively decently length deal, Howie Roseman loves the trenches. Like, this guy's going to make sure he has depth for days on the offensive and defensive line. So with Cody Mauch falling to their lap at 62, I think this is kind of one of the best landing spots just because Philadelphia is so great at developing defensive line and offensive line talent. So Cody Mauch, who is a work in progress as a pass protector, but flies around the field, is looking to inflict harm, and is a really good run blocker as of right now. I think this is a really good spot to try to see what maybe the best of Cody Mauch would look like. Last pick in the round 2 video is going to be Rashee Rice going to Kansas City. I've just been really interested by them potentially adding that big body possession X wide receiver type. I know Travis Kelce's there, but honestly, for how much longer, right? Age is going to be something we talk about year over year over year with him, just because he's now at that point in his life. So I think future-proofing that wide receiver position and having that possession X guy ready to go is something that is worth adding here in the second round. And additionally, even without Travis Kelce, like, MVS is a big body field stretcher. Kadarius Toney and Sky Moore work the underneath stuff, or gadget weapons, and are young players with a lot of potential. But none of them are like Rashee Rice at like 6'2", 200-plus pounds, and can win those contested catch balls and play like a possession and play with physicality. So I think adding him in the mix just rounds out that wide receiver room. But I've just now scrolled across the top one to showcase every pick of the second round one more time, and I'll go back across just in case you were listening to me talk, which is never a bad thing. But let me hear your thoughts about this round 2 portion of the updated mock down below in the comment section. How do you think these picks fit in with some of the free agent moves each and every one of these teams have made? Who's your favorite squad? Do you like the pick I gave your team? Do you hate it? Or are you somewhere there in between? I'd love to hear your rationale no matter how you spin it. But hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to hit that like button. It seriously would help me out a ton. And if you're new around here, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. Lots more football and lots more draft content coming your way. But be sure to come back tomorrow for the round 3 cap off to this updated mock. But until then, my name is Tej, and I'm signing off.